All right, I think we are going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Grafana for SCOM users. We are coming to you from a cold, snowy Ottawa, Canada. We hope the weather's a little better wherever you might be joining us from. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to see the level of interest in the work that we're doing in this area. We've certainly seen a lot of interest in Grafana. We've seen a lot of interest in this webinar, even just judging on the attendance. And we're very happy to continue to bring innovation into the SCOM market. SCOM is a very entrenched platform in a lot of organizations, and we're happy to continue to provide additional capabilities on top of that SCOM platform. So we've got lots to talk about today, and we've got lots of work underway as well. So we'll have some more things coming down the road. By way of the outline for the course today, this is really designed as an introduction to Grafana. I know many of you perhaps are not that familiar with Grafana. Maybe you've used it before but haven't been involved in setting things up or haven't been involved in working with dashboards. This is really designed to give you a sense of Grafana start to finish in terms of setting up Grafana itself, working with dashboards, and then making use of a new set of dashboards that we're actually releasing today to help you work with SCOM and work with dashboards for SCOM. So I would say this is really a Grafana 100 level webinar. And if you do have more experience with Grafana, maybe you'll be able to pick up a hint or two as we go along. And you'll certainly be able to take a look at the new release that we're making available today. We will be hosting a more advanced Grafana webinar probably in maybe a month and a half or 2 months' time, which will offer some more advanced topics in Grafana and really trying to relate that back to you as a SCOM engineer or SCOM administrator. So just in terms of logistics, the sessions are being recorded, and so if you have to drop off for whatever reason, we are going to be sending out links to everybody who registered for today's event. We will be sending out a survey, and so we always like to emphasize it's, if you are able to take a minute or two, which is all it takes to complete the survey at the end of today's event that we'll be sending out. It really helps us in terms of the content that we present. It helps us shape additional webinars. And we really encourage you to complete that survey. Again, just takes a minute or two of your time. I do have some other colleagues of mine with me. I guess I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of the event. Apologies. My name is Harold Egg, founder of Silex Software. Along with me on the webinar are a few of my colleagues, Mike, Jacob, and Dan, who are here to answer any questions that you may have. We do encourage you to use the Teams chat window to ask any questions that you have as we go through. Perhaps at the end of the event, I think we'll have a couple minutes where we can interactively answer some additional questions. But again, use that chat window, ask your questions. Should see some responses in line as we go along here. So again, today's event is really, first of it is Grafana kind of 101. It's what is Grafana? We're going to go through in the demo, and it's mostly going to be spent doing a demonstration of Grafana and the dashboards. And so we're actually going to go start to finish setting up a new instance of Grafana. We're going to create some dashboards. We're going to do some tuning of those dashboards. We're then going to import the new dashboards we're releasing today. And so there's actually a lot that can go wrong through this entire sequence because we're starting really on a sort of a clean image of a machine. And so that might be entertaining unto itself. Hopefully things will go go smoothly. And again, we will emphasize as best we can as we go along here in talking about Grafana in the context of SCOM, in the context of getting information out of SCOM to be able to present that in a compelling and meaningful way to you. And so for those of you who are maybe new to Silect or don't understand a whole lot about it, it's just a real quick introduction. We've been delivering solutions into the system center market now for over 20 years. A lot of you may know us as the host of MP University, which is an annual event bringing together technology leaders in the industry to bring you sort of the latest, greatest set of news around SCOM and related topics. We offer solutions really designed to simplify your experience working with those tools. And so, SCOM is, of course, a pretty complex platform, as is Azure Monitor. And even as we get into some other technologies that we'll be talking about in a few minutes, including things like Prometheus, our goal is really to help simplify the experience of working with those tools and really sort of collapse that time to value curve for those of you using those products and platforms. We offer a number of licensed products as well as community products. We have a number of free downloads for things like security monitoring. We have fragments for authoring Linux scenarios as an example. We've got a tool to help you work with MPB files. We're probably best known for our authoring capabilities through both our MP Author professional tool and MP Studio, which offer a great simplified experience working with management packs, kind of from start to finish. We address the entire life cycle of those management packs. More recently, we introduced a web interface to be able to work with those management packs, authoring, overrides, etc. And actually, I'll be just touching on that today at the end of the event. And of course, what we're talking about today, which is our Grafana dashboards. Recently as well, we've introduced some services. We've been working now with Prometheus and Grafana for a little while now, so we've got some services wrapped around those technologies that we're making available. Okay, so let's get right into things, and let's first of all talk about what is Grafana. This is taken directly from the Grafana website. So Grafana basically is a platform to help users analyze, monitor, and visualize data. So the technology stack that we see here is multi-layered. We're really going to be focusing on that very top layer, which is the visualization, and that's all we're really going to be covering today is that visualization layer. But Grafana certainly offers a lot more capabilities in terms of being able to do data collection, data analysis. It's got some capabilities around observability, and that's really kind of what their push is towards delivering an observability solution, focusing things on logs, metrics, traces, and that sort of thing. They consistently rank in the top quadrant, in the Magic Quadrant, Gartner's Magic Quadrant for observability solutions. It came out of the open source world, but they certainly do have commercial products in their offering. One of the great things about Grafana is it leaves the data where it is. And so as you'll see through today's demonstration, we're going to pull some data in from SQL, but it's not actually going to be storing and managing that data. It's simply taking that data in for the purposes of the visualizations that we're going to build on top of that. Grafana has a number of editions available, open source, which is the free community edition, which is all we're going to be looking at today. So what I'm going to be showing you today consists entirely of the free edition of Grafana that we're going to actually download and install within our environment. They do offer an enterprise edition, which is the open source plus a bunch of other things. They've got some additional plugins for some other platforms. They've got sort of enterprise features for analysis. They've got some AI capabilities as well, which is really interesting, technical support, of course. And as well, in their cloud offering, they do also have a free cloud capability. And I think it's once you build up to a certain volume of transactions and of data, it turns into a pay-as-you-go model. And for those of you who have worked in Azure, perhaps you're even using SCOM managed instance, you'll be perhaps familiar with the Azure managed Grafana instance, which we've worked with as well, and which works really well with the dashboards that we'll be showing. So let's go ahead right to the demonstration and start by installing Grafana. So I'm going to switch over my screens here. And so as I said, we are starting out with a a clean image. I've copied a few files on here. That's the only sort of changes I've made. I've installed Chrome. And so let's begin by downloading Grafana. So we're going to go up to the Grafana website. We're going to hit the downloads option across the top. So again, as I mentioned earlier, there's the cloud and the self-managed version. We're going to go self-managed. We're going to run this within our environment. We're going to download the Grafana, and then we're going to be prompted for which edition of Grafana. So we're going to go with the open source. We're working on a Windows platform, so we're going to go ahead and download the Windows installer. Now, just to save a minute, I've already done that, so I do have it on my desktop here. So I'll go ahead and launch that installer. And go through the setup wizard. You'll see here that it's going to install Grafana to run as a service. And I'll click on install, and it's going to proceed and install the Grafana open source on the platform that we're using. This takes a minute, obviously, to do what it needs to do. So just going back to their website for just a minute, just point out the number of products and solutions that it has. It has a number of open source tools to help you manage some of these other artifacts or things that exist within your environment, like logs and metrics. Under their solutions tab, they do have a quite an extensive set of monitoring and visualization solutions. And so again, their push is towards this, towards observability. But as I look down through here, you can get a sense of all the different solutions that they support. And so in a lot of cases, you'll see they have a monitor. So they do have the ability to do monitoring. Now, of course, we don't really care about that in the context of this discussion around SCOM, which does a fantastic job of infrastructure monitoring. But they also have visualization capabilities for these tools as well. So going through, you can see the kind of the plethora of capabilities that they have with third-party products. And if I scroll down a little bit more, you'll see some Azure Monitor. And this is the SQL Server component is something that we're going to be looking at during the demonstration today. We'll be leveraging the SQL Server data source to be able to pull information in from SCOM. So let's go back to our installer. We see that it has completed. So now we should have an instance of Grafana running locally. So if I go to my local host, Grafana likes to use, I think it's port 3000. And let's just make sure that service is operational. Oh, there we go. It is operational. The default login is admin. It's going to ask me to change the password, which is obviously a security risk. I'm just going to skip that for the time being. And so it's really that straightforward. And I mean, setting up, getting Grafana installed and operational is, as you can see, a very, very straightforward, simple operation. So now it's ready to use. Let's just flip back to the slides for a second and just let's talk about sort of our next steps in the process. And so what we're going to be looking at now is configuring Grafana for SCOM. So again, I showed you, did a preview of some of the data sources that Grafana makes available. We're going to be leveraging the SQL Server data source. We're going to be pointing that at the SCOM database, both the Ops Manager database as well as the data warehouse. They do have a query builder option to help you interact with that data and be able to pull, the necessary information out of that SCOM environment. Of course, we're going to be emphasizing the visualization capabilities today of Grafana, and they also offer some transformations. And so I'm going to be touching on these things. Again, this is really a 100 level type of webinar or session dealing with these things, and we will in the future be delivering a more advanced series of topics on Grafana. So let's go back to Grafana, and I'm going to go down to my connections, my data sources, and this is where I'm going to add that Microsoft SQL Server data source. And so we get a list of the data sources available. Scrolling down, we can find the SQL. And so let's give this thing a more meaningful name. So this is going to be the SCOM database. And we've got it running on a machine called SQL Server. Operations Manager is the name of the database we're going to be accessing. We're not using SSL in this in our Contoso environment. It's asking us for the authentication type. And just to point this out, because this kind of tripped me up the first time I looked at it. SQL Server authentication, really, I think of that as sort of Microsoft defines SQL Server, SQL authentication, but it does include Windows authentication as well. So I can use my domain account to be able to access that SQL instance. Additional settings, if I need to tweak this connection in any way, shape, or form, let's just do a save and test. So we do get confirmation that that connection worked and works successfully. So if I go back to my list of data sources, we'll see we have that SCOM-DB data source, and let's go ahead and build a dashboard using that data source. I'm going to add a visualization. And now it's going to be prompting me for basically, because this is a SQL data source, it'll be prompting me for the SQL query to use to help me build my visualization. Now, I am by no means a SQL guy, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Google SCOM SQL queries. Of course, the first item that comes up is from our good friend Kevin Holman, who's been a tremendous resource in our community, continues to provide us with a lot of great information and insights into SCOM itself. And Kevin has published a suite of queries rather around SQL Server that we're going to make use of. And this is going to be a very, very simple example where we're going to take the number of console alerts per day. I'm going to just simply copy and paste that over to my Grafana visual. So if I just move this up a little bit, down here at the bottom of my screen is where we define the actual SQL to be able to again grab that information that we need. It has a builder option, which is the default. What we're seeing here that allows me to interactively build a query basically to grab what I need. Because I've copied and pasted that information out of Kevin's out of one of his blogs, I'm just going to copy and paste that directly in here. And now I'm going to run the query. Now what you're going to see here is it says missing a time field. The reason for that is that Grafana really likes to work in time series data. And so if you look over here on the right hand side, we see the default visualization is a time series chart. Now, this is alerts per day, so we're not going to see that in really a time series format. But as soon as I change that to another visualization, we'll be able to see that particular panel light up for us in the dashboard. The only thing I don't like about this is the way it's being sorted, so I'm just going to change that SQL to reverse, so we see it in sort of ascending order. Let's call this SCOM alerts per day. And let's go ahead and save that dashboard. And at this point, we've just built our first dashboard for SCOM. Now, this is obviously a process that we could repeat many, many times to be able to build out what we need. So for example, if I wanted to add another visualization, I would go through the same steps. By default, it's going to select that one data source that we've created. I'm going to use code. I'm going to go back to Kevin's queries, and let's just pick another one of these queries. Why don't we do this next one here? Alerts by repeat count. And I'll take that, copy and paste that. Let's use we've got the code option open here. And let's go ahead and run that query. So I haven't made any changes to these queries at all other than that order by comment. Again, this is missing a time field, so it wants to do something else with this data. I'm not really sure what the format of this data is in. As you can see over here on the right, as I select the drop down, you'll see a really good number of visualization options for us. Whenever I'm working with this data, I'm really not sure what it is. I'm just going to use a table format, and that's going to show me the output of this in a tabular format. And here I can see it's got some good information. So I'm seeing alert and description. I'm seeing some other information here that I probably don't really care to see is in my visualization. So I'm going to select transformations, which is an area that we can use to manipulate the data that's being presented, in this case on the within the table. And so let's add a transformation. And here we see the set of transformation options that we can do in terms of either summarizing data, manipulating some of the text in the fields. We can group the information. I'm going to scroll down and select this organize fields by name option, which is simply going to allow me to, for example, not display everything. And I don't necessarily care about the GUID associated with these alerts. When I'm done with the transformations, I can go ahead and save that. And we'll go back to the dashboard. I'll see the new table that we've just added. Go ahead and expand that out. I can change column sizes. I prefer to see this chart on top, so I'm just going to drag and drop that bar chart to go on top of that other data. And so now I've generated a very, very basic dashboard for SCOM, but as you can see, it's really simple to do this, really simple to get started. And I go ahead and save that. And as soon as that's saved, any authorized user can now log into Grafana, can see that dashboard available to them, click on the dashboard and get those results. So a very, very simple way to get up and running, both installing Grafana, even if you're starting like I did completely from scratch, really simple to get up and running with Grafana. And with, of course, building dashboards for SCOM. So going back to our slides, and let's just talk about sort of the next steps in terms of working with Grafana and building out dashboards for SCOM. We're very happy today to release the immediate availability of our version 2 release of the Silac Grafana dashboards for SCOM. That's available for download now. And we have a community edition, so we have an edition that's completely free. You're open to download that community edition and use it, work with it within your environment. We offer, similar to what we did with the initial version in terms of providing an overall state of your environment, state of all the endpoints within your environment. We'll show active alerts. We also get into some very detailed metrics around SCOM itself, and so we'll provide you with a number of insights into the operation of SCOM. Perhaps you want to use it to maybe better understand what SCOM is doing sort of underneath the covers. Perhaps you're running SCOM in mind and want to reduce some data storage costs. We'll give you some really good insights into, for example, management packs that are generating and storing a lot of data. The new version 2 release also offers endpoint details. So we now offer a drill down so you can see specifics about agents within your environment. You can see information around alerts, the state of monitors, events that SCOM is looking at, performance metrics. And one of the great things about the dashboard is that all the SQL that we're using, so we make use of that same SQL data source. All the SQL that we're using is freely available within those dashboards for you to use, to reuse, to make changes to. So it really represents a great way to get up and running really, really quickly with Grafana and with dashboards. Today, we're also announcing a licensed edition of those same dashboards, which takes things another step further. So it's everything that the community edition has, plus we add some additional filtering so you can scope the views based on SCOM group. We provide more details on alerts, monitors, performance metrics, technical support, etc. So let's go ahead and take a look at those new dashboards. So I'm back to my Grafana instance. I'm going to go to my dashboard page. So, I mean, just to get those dashboards, we'll just go to select. And we have a slow connection is what we have. And if you go to select.com/Grafana, you'll be able to see those new dashboards. And the updated page, the community edition, download the community edition. I've already done that just again to save us just a minute or two. And so let's go ahead and import those new dashboards. And I'm going to start, there's a couple of dashboards that we include in the community edition, and I'm going to import the first one, which is the overview. So you'll see here as I'm importing that dashboard, it's prompting us for the database and the data warehouse. Now our documentation, which I didn't read, properly tells us that we need to create a data source for the SCOM data warehouse. So let's go back to data sources before we do that import. And let me create that new data source using SQL. So let's call this the SCOM DW. Again, it's on that same SQL server. It's called Operations Manager DW. I'm going to use the same authentication way. And we'll save and test. Database connection is okay. If I look at my data sources now, I've got the two defined. So let's go back and re-import that now that I have the proper data sources set up. SCOM database, SCOM data warehouse, import. And again, Grafana is not making duplicate copies of this data. It's simply accessing the database, running, in this case, running those queries against the database. And here we see the opening dashboard, which is providing us with an overall status of our IT infrastructure as seen by SCOM. So we're seeing the endpoints, number of endpoints that are being monitored. We're seeing a couple breakdowns of the alerts that are transpiring within the environment. We have alerts by priority. We have the single management server. Scrolling down a little bit, I can see information about any active alerts within the environment. And I've got a few that I need to deal with. I'm also seeing, sorry, as I scroll too fast, I'm seeing the overall health state of each of the endpoints that SCOM is monitoring. And then further below, I'm seeing, well, we see some trend information here. So this is more perhaps for you to get a sense of overall state of your IT infrastructure over time, alerts that are being created over time. And then we get into some of the details about the operation of SCOM itself. And we can see, the management packs. We can see as I scroll a little bit further down, we do a health check of SCOM. So we're looking at some of the key performance metrics related to SCOM, and there's many more rows that that you can take a look at. If I can just quickly sort of highlight some of these things. I don't have these back up. We see config churn, and we'll see data on event log entries, etc. So a lot of details again about the operation of SCOM itself to help you understand kind of what it's doing under the covers. Let's go back up to the top. Now, one of the other cool things is we have now this drill down capability. So what I need to do before I use that drill down is I need to go ahead and import that second dashboard that we include in the community. And that's the computer status. Select the data source that it needs. And if I just go back to my main dashboard, you see we now have the ability to go from this dashboard and looking at these endpoints and drilling down to see details about a particular endpoint. And again, that's one of the new capabilities that we've introduced in this version 2 release of the Grafana dashboards. So here I can see the status, some detailed status information for this particular endpoint. This happens to be our SCOM server. I see some details on any current alerts that are active. I see an alert history here, which is showing me alerts over the time frame. That the default time frame here is a 24-hour time frame. We're seeing individual monitor states and the entire list of things that are being monitored. Again, sorry for scrolling down too quickly. And then a little bit further below, we're seeing some key performance counters, and so some key metrics around CPU, memory, disk, and network activity. And then at the very bottom of this, we show event log information. And these are events that SCOM is sort of looking at and what SCOM cares about. All this information in this drill down is, well, I shouldn't say all the information. We do have this time filter at the top. So what I can do with this is I can adjust the time range. So if I want to look at a little more history associated with this particular endpoint, current alerts remains the same, of course, because that's showing us in active time what alerts are current on that system. But you see the alert history. We can see get more of a historical perspective on the alerts. The monitor state doesn't change either because this is that's an active real-time view. But the performance metrics we get, we're seeing more and more performance information on that particular endpoint over time. One of the other cool things about Grafana is I can, as you saw, I can set the time range using this drop down, but I also drag and drop over a range. So if there's a particular area that I care about, I'll simply just highlight that area, and all of these, in this case, all of these performance metrics will adjust to see that particular time frame. These dashboards are, as I said earlier, are completely customizable. And so if you want to take advantage of what we've embedded in these dashboards, so let's take an example. Let's just take a look at this particular item in the dashboard. So we've got a pie chart with some alert information. Down here is the SQL query that we're using to generate that. And if I wanted to take that same query, and I'm just going to simply do a copy and paste, I'll go back to my dashboard. If I wanted to add a new visualization, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use that same methodology I used earlier. I'm going to paste in that query that we used. I'm going to run the query. Now, again, Grafana likes time series representation, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. I could present this in a slightly different way. Again, when I'm unsure of the data and the format, I simply use the table. So in this case, we could surface that information up in a table. I'm not sure this scenario makes a whole lot of sense, but we can go through and we can remove some of the other fields here, etc. And then once we're all done, we can go back to our dashboard, and we should see that new visualization up at the top. So this is a table. So again, very, very simple example of being able to, you get a jump start using these free dashboards to be able to help you, if the dashboards that we're providing out of the box aren't sufficient to address your requirement, to be able to help you get to the stage where you've got what you need to be able to get better insights into the health of your IT environment. But of course, Grafana does a whole lot more than simply look at SQL and in our example, look at SCOM. We've got some other work that we've done. Let's just go ahead and discard that. Add a new data source. Other work that we've done recently with Prometheus. And Prometheus is basically, if you're not familiar with Prometheus, it is another open source tool that is really good at storing and managing time series data. And so with this particular data source, I've got Prometheus, and I think that's the right port. I'm going to leave all these other settings and cross my fingers that this is going to work. Yep, it worked. Fantastic. And so with this data source, and I'm just going to, again, this is just a very kind of simple example of what else we can do with Grafana and with the visualizations. I built this performance counter dashboard, which uses Prometheus. It uses a little bit of information out of SCOM and allows us to do some visualizations of performance metrics in SCOM. So we have, for example, I'm able to look at a specific endpoint. So let's say I want to look at, I look at a host. And maybe I want to look at, something else. What do I want to look at? Logical disk, just as an example. So we can get some performance metrics, in this case out of Prometheus, that shows us a lot of detailed information about the metrics that basically that SCOM is collected. And so it's a very, just an example of really a powerful tool for visualization. And if you start combining it with some other technologies that are readily available, that are freely available, you can get some really compelling scenarios and solutions within your environment. So just, I guess the last thing to sort of cover off here is I'm going to go back to my host. And we've also worked on integrating these dashboards within our product set. And so here's an example. I'm going to log into our portal, which is our web interface into SCOM. I'm going to log in as a limited user. So I'm logging in actually as a member of our IIS team, and I have a restricted access to things in SCOM. But when I'm using when I'm accessing the Grafana dashboards through our portal, you can see that I get a limited view. So this is the same SCOM environment that we were working with previously, but here you can see I only have access to the information that is in the group that I have access to within SCOM. So in this case, the IIS computer group. And so we see this information properly scoped for that particular user. Similarly, we only see the endpoints that are, again, that user has access to. And so, and this is using we've integrated the licensed edition of our dashboards into the portal to give you that those additional capabilities in terms of filtering the view. And we do have some additional details in terms of drill down on endpoints that we make available. But just to show you that, again, we are able to support filtering of these views. So if you have instances where you need to share dashboards, you want to make some of this information available to others within your organization, but you don't want to give them access to everything, that is an option as well through the Grafana dashboards, the licensed edition, or using a tool like our portal tool that allows you to do that. And similarly, just to kind of cover off the area, other things within our Silac portal are also scoped on that user. So this provides you really a way of allowing others within your organization, again, other stakeholders within your organization, to more or less self-serve. So they can understand the state of their part of the IT real estate. They can manage their own maintenance schedules. They can manage their own notification schedules, even if you want to provide them with the ability to tune management packs and author, create overrides, or what have you. The portal does provide you with that option. Okay, so going back to our slides, just as we close up today's session, next steps, we'll encourage you to download and install Grafana. As you saw, what I did earlier, really, really simple to do that, and takes literally minutes to get up and running, and minutes to get your very first SCOM dashboard lit up within Grafana. We offer a great way to get started with our community download. So go to silac.com/Grafana, and you can download those new dashboards that we published up this morning. We encourage you to learn more about Grafana, and they've got a ton of great resources available for you to be able to learn more about the Grafana platform. We will be hosting another event again, probably in early to mid-March. That'll be more a 200, 300 level course on Grafana and get into some more sophisticated scenarios, both for SCOM as well as for some other tooling. And we really encourage you to start building and sharing awesome dashboards. There's a great number of dashboards in the community. Grafana makes them available through their site. So I think if you go to community.grafana.com, you can see some of that information. And we're here to help as well. And so we really encourage your feedback. We'd like to hear from you with your experience working with the dashboards. If you need help with some scenarios, if you're maybe behind schedule on a project or don't have the resources, we're here to help as well.